Welcome back to Tiny Blue Games. My name's of course Csaw or Chris, and today we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV in 2020. Hopefully you all are having a great start to your weekend. I'm doing quite well myself. Today we're checking out the Hatching Tide event in Final Fantasy, which is their Easter event. You do get a very interesting and slightly creepy bunny costume from the event, which I'm pretty excited about. It's really interesting because with everything going on in the world, I actually didn't realize that Easter was coming up. So I was like, oh, weird, there's an event going on. Oh, weird, it's for Easter. So it kind of caught me off guard, but it reminded me of like what month it is and everything. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, so the event, at this point, I've kind of gotten used to how the events work in game, or at least the last few ones have had a very predictable sort of way of going about themselves, where we'll start in a amphitheater area that's nice and decorated. They do such a good job of decorating in this game. I really am excited to kind of turn around the corner each time and see all of the decorations for the events. We get our quest there, and then we kind of get sent to do several different tasks. The first of which is a fate where we have to capture these chickens. Pretty fun. It was interesting at first because I wasn't sure if I was in the right spot because it wasn't starting right away, and then all of a sudden this bunny person showed up and I was like, oh yeah, this is probably it. And we start chasing chickens, which makes sense because we're going to be using a lot of eggs, and they actually draw attention to this in some of the dialogue, which I found was really funny. They're like, why are rabbits and eggs so tied together if rabbits don't lay eggs? There were some valid points made for sure. But the actual fate itself is pretty easy to do, and there was quite a few people doing it because it is a event that's going on. I believe this one was split into two separate portions as well, where you could kind of do one part of the event the first week and a second part of the week in week 2. Second part of the event in week 2. My words got kind of mixed up there, but we figured it out. So you can see quite a few people doing each of the events, which always makes it feel a little bit nicer as well. Pretty easy to do this, really. Just there's one button that kind of slows the chicken, and then the other button you can kind of do a nice scoop action. I got fortunate enough to capture 2 chickens at once a few times and felt pretty awesome about it. But yeah, so we bring it back and we talk to Mr. Rabbit, and this is where we get our costume, and this is kind of the conclusion of part 1 of the events. And it says that there will be a second part available soon, but we're doing them both in the same video this time because look at that. So I'm going to put on my costume. You can see here that I already am wearing some costumes from some other events. You get the helmet as well as the chest piece. I am, however, going to just choose to use the chest piece. I don't know. So I don't know if this makes it like less creepy or more creepy, but yeah, this is the look I'm going with for now until something else comes up where I replace a piece of gear. I feel pretty funny. It's been really fun doing some of the main scenario quests wearing this costume and just being like, oh hey, just a bunny, don't worry about it. It feels pretty strange for sure. So we do continue with the second part of the event here. We go back to the same amphitheater area, and we learn about what we need to do for the next part of the event, which really is pretty short as well, minus one really long wait we had for a fate, which we'll get to soon. But the very first thing we have to do is meet up with a few people and receive some eggs. Some of these people are much more normal than others, and you'd think that this bunny person, this bunny guard looking person, would be the weird part, but no, you just wait. There's some shocking stuff, and if you haven't done it yourself yet, you probably should do it before I spoil all of it in this video. Something I probably should have mentioned at the very start, but I think that's fair to say. I mean, it's pretty obvious I'm going to be covering the events, I guess. So, but yeah. We're just chilling here, and then look at the shock on our guy's face, and then I turn around. I love the camera action they do here, staring at his crotch to begin with, and then slowly move up. Whoever made this quest had a good amount of fun doing it. But yeah, this person doesn't really remind me of Easter, and might be on their way to a certain type of party. But yeah, very, very freaky. I guess that's the other way you could go with the costume. I mean, I'm just wearing the bottoms and he's just wearing the top. So he, I guess you could just wear the top like that, and that's what you're going to end up with. Very interesting that they've made that decision. But I also like this little added piece here at the end where he's walking away and he's wondering why his son hasn't talked to him in some time. So a little bit of shade thrown, which is fair considering he's kind of creepy. But yeah, so then we meet a much less creepy bunny now. Pretty much all of the bunnies look a lot less creepy because they introduced someone who was super creepy. And I wonder if that was some sort of tactic, like, oh, this is getting pretty weird with all the bunny costumes. Let's make someone who's actually weird, and then everyone else will seem more normal. Who knows? Maybe that's how they went about it. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah. So we collect all of the eggs from everyone, which is great, and then we bring them back to our quest giver, and they direct us to one final fate that I had to sit around waiting for like 10 minutes to spawn, which sounds really, really bad. And it wasn't great. I think it's because I had like just missed it when I got here. And you can actually join up with it if you know where it's gonna go, but I had no idea, so I had to wait around for 10 minutes. And there was quite a few people waiting as well, so I felt like I was in the right spot, but it did take a while. So that's one negative I'd say for this event, but overall I've been quite enjoying it. The little guys carrying the eggs are adorable, and what we're doing here is we go through the town and we present our eggs to all of the kids, which is, a fun little conclusion to this event, where, you really go through the whole process of preparing these eggs, and you get to see the reward in the kids' eyes when they enjoy what you give them. But yeah, so I've really mostly been doing main scenario quests in the game, so it was kind of a nice thing to break off and do this. A lot of people who have been watching the channel know that I've recently finished the Realm Reborn story, or the very the first portion of it, and I'm now doing the quest between A Realm Reborn and the first expansion. I'm trying to progress pretty quickly through those quests, but there are quite a few of them, and it's kind of a situation where it starts off slow again, because you have to kind of think back to when it was probably released, is that this was after a fair bit of sort of just waiting for the next piece of content, whereas for me, I'm rushing into it right after this huge climax, and it feels like all of a sudden we went from like really, really fast paced to like, okay, now we can go slow again. So it's a bit interesting as someone who's just trying to complete all the stuff and like listen to the story that way. But it's been pretty enjoyable, and it's bringing back some different characters, which is awesome. I always like seeing how people sort of end up after a big fight. Sometimes games sort of forget about NPCs for a long time, but it seems like Final Fantasy's done a really good job of keeping you up to date where everyone is and how they've done after the events that took place at the end of A Realm Reborn, which is really good as well. But yeah, so that's what we're doing, and it was kind of nice just to take a break and do some event stuff and dish out some eggs to some happy kids. The one downside I'd say to this whole event is it's pretty quick, pretty easy, but it is pretty repetitive. Just like the catching rabbits, once you've done it once or twice, you're like, okay, how much more do I have to do? This one's maybe a little bit worse because you're like, ugh, look at this entire fate bar. And it might go a lot quicker if you have more people, but I assume it kind of scales the progress to how many people you have in a group, and you just have to sort of like slowly walk behind these rabbits and like wait for the next part to come. So it does take a little bit of time, which is unfortunate, but I mean, it allows everyone kind of to participate. And once again, if you were wise enough to know where they're going to walk and you could just join up with them instead of waiting around to do the entire full event like I did, it would probably be a lot better for you as well. So that's a word of encouragement. I do like the bunny costumes. I like this green guy a lot. Like, he's a huge bunny, and he just kind of like lumbers around with all the other little like egg carriers just like walking between his legs. It's pretty fun. So the very final part of these events, I was wondering what kind of reward you'd get for doing the second part, and you can actually get some other cosmetics as well if you want to earn them. But what you do get is this really cool game for your inn, and I actually just discovered games in my inn like last video or last Saturday. So this is, you know, pretty good progress here. You can see I'm absolutely doing terrible, and I kind of kept waiting to die so I could restart, but I noticed eventually that you don't actually have health, you just lose how many points you get. So I figured out first that you could jump, and then I figured out, hey, you can actually move back and forward, and then later on here, you're going to realize I figure out that there's a double jump, and that's why I can't actually reach these really high ones. So it's kind of just a real unfortunate time. You know, try and beat my high score of 0, why don't you? God, I don't know why I put this in, just to like humiliate myself on YouTube. But yeah, that's the I'm just watching how bad I'm doing now, and it is really unfortunate. But yeah, so there you go. I figure out that I can double jump there, and I'm making some progress, but we're kind of too late now to really recover it. I've also noticed at the bottom that it's showing me how far I've traveled. Yeah, it's a fun game. It is. I think if I came back to this and knew all of the instructions right away, I'd be ready to go and probably, hopefully do better. I mean, the one positive thing of actually ending with 0 is that there's no way I could do worse next time. So that's nice. What's also interesting is it ends off with like kind of like a bunch of easy like ladybugs. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, there you go, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your weekend.